December 24th, 1944. Camp Hearne, Texas. 05:30 a.m. Tweet. The whistle slices the air. Inspection! 50 women hit the floor. Blankets snap tight. Boots slam together. Ilse stands at attention, motionless. But inside, she is screaming. She isn't looking at the captain. She is looking at her mattress. Specifically, the lump underneath it. The napkin. The stash. 3 crusts of bread. 1 rock-hard cheese wedge. 1 rotting orange. Stolen. Hidden. Forbidden. Clack. 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 Captain Miller is coming. He doesn't walk. He prowls. He is chewing gum. Smack. Smack. He stops at Ilse. He smells the fear. Or maybe he smells the orange. He looks at her. You shaken, Fräulein? No, sir. A lie. She is vibrating. He looks down. He sees the bulge in the mattress. Boom. Heart stops. This is it. Shipment back to Germany. Or worse. The hole. Miller grabs the mattress, rips it up. The napkin tumbles out, unravels. The treasure spills onto the wool. Moldy bread, sweating cheese, the orange. It looks pathetic. It looks like trash. The barracks goes silent. Dead silent. Ilse closes her eyes. She braces for the blow. Hit me. Just hit me. Ants, Miller says. Ilse blinks. You're gonna get ants, he says, bored. They bite. He reaches into his coat. Ilse flinches. He pulls out a Hershey's bar. He tosses it. It lands on the rotting bread with a soft thud. Throw that garbage out, he says. We got pancakes. He drops the mattress, moves on. Next. Ilse stares at the chocolate. She doesn't breathe. He didn't shoot her. He didn't scream. He gave her chocolate? Because her treasure, her life-saving hoard, is just garbage to him. The enemy is so rich, they don't punish thieves. They feed them. And that hurts more than a bullet. To understand why Ilse wept over a chocolate bar, you cannot just look at the camp in Texas. You have to travel back. You have to go back 4,000 miles in 12 months. Back to Hamburg, winter of 1943. The word hunger in English is too simple. It implies a temporary state. I skipped lunch. I am hungry. In Germany, in 1943, hunger was not a state. It was a place. It was a landscape you lived in. Ilse remembers the kitchen table in her family's apartment on Osterstrasse. It was a sturdy oak table. Before the war, it had groaned under the weight of Sunday roasts, pork knuckles, dumplings, red cabbage boiled with apples. By 1943, the table was a vast, empty desert. The ration cards. They were the holy scripture of the Third Reich. Small slips of paper. Blue for meat, yellow for dairy, red for bread. Ilse's mother, a woman who once had the soft hands of a piano teacher, had become a wolf. She would stand in line for 6 hours at the bakery, 6 hours in the freezing rain. For what? For Kommissbrot, army bread. A dark, dense brick made of rye flour mixed with sawdust and potato peels. It was heavy. It was wet inside. If you threw it at a wall, it would thud like a stone. Ilse watched her mother slice the bread. It was a surgical operation. Her mother used a thin knife. She measured the width of the slice with her thumb. Thin. Thinner. Translucent. Don't waste the crumbs, her mother would whisper. After the meal, her mother would wet her finger and press it onto the wooden board, picking up every single distinct crumb, transferring them to her tongue like a communion wafer. The Stamison, standard meal. This was the reality of the war effort. A soup, water, rutabagas. Sometimes, if you were lucky, a horse bone for flavor, but never meat. The meat had gone to the Eastern Front. Ilse learned to eat the soup slowly, letting the warm liquid fool her stomach into thinking it was full. But an hour later, the pain would return. It was a dull, gnawing ache behind the navel, a cramp that never fully released. It changed her mind. She stopped thinking about boys. She stopped thinking about music. She stopped thinking about the victory of the Reich. She thought about potatoes. She would lie in bed at night, shivering under 3 blankets, and hallucinate about butter. Not freedom. Butter. Thick, yellow, salty butter spread on white bread. The propaganda. And while their stomachs ate themselves, the radio fed them lies. Joseph Goebbels' voice became the soundtrack of their starvation. "The Americans are starving too," the radio would scream. "Their ships are sinking. Their cities are rioting for food. The U-boats are choking them." Ilse believed it. She had to. If the Americans were eating well, then all this suffering was for nothing. She was taught that the Americans were kulturless barbarians. They were gangsters who would enslave Germany. And the most terrifying rumor of all, if you are captured by the Americans, the BDM leader told them, they will not feed you. They will put you in cages in the desert and let the sun dry you out until you are husks. So, when Ilse was captured near the Rhine borders in late 1944, she didn't pack clothes. She packed a potato. She found a raw, muddy potato in a field ditch. She shoved it into her boot. She walked for 3 days with that potato rubbing a blister into her ankle. She didn't eat it. She was saving it, because she knew that where she was going, there would be no food. The journey to America was a blur of fear. The ship ride across the Atlantic, the trains with their plush seats. But nothing prepared Ilse for Camp Hearne. It was the mess hall. In Ilse's mind, a prison mess hall should be a dungeon. It should smell of urine and boiled cabbage. Camp Hearne's mess hall smelled of vanilla and roast beef and coffee. The first entry. Ilse walked in with her tray. The metal tray felt heavy in her weak hands. She moved down the line. She expected a ladle of watery soup. Instead, she saw the mountains. Mountain number 1, mashed potatoes. White. Fluffy. Standing in peaks like the Alps. The server, a bored-looking GI with grease on his apron, slapped a scoop onto her tray. Splat. It was the size of a grapefruit. In Hamburg, that single scoop was a week's ration for a family of 4. Here, it was a side dish. Mountain number 2, the meatloaf, thick slabs of ground beef baked with tomato sauce. Ilse stared at it. It was brown. It was solid. It wasn't mostly filler. It was meat. The server put 2 slices on her tray. 2. She wanted to scream, "Stop! That's too much. They will shoot you for wasting it." The butter. This was the breaking point. At the end of the line, there was a bowl. It was filled with yellow squares. Ice-cold squares of butter. There was no guard. There was no sign saying, 1 per person. Ilse reached out. Her hand shook. She took 1 square. She looked at the server. He didn't look up. She took another. He didn't blink. She realized with a shock that she could take the whole bowl, and he probably wouldn't care. The table scene. Ilse sat down next to Greta. The noise in the hall was strange. It wasn't the sound of talking. It was the sound of frantic eating. 300 women were attacking their food. They ate with their heads down, arms curved around their trays like defensive walls. Protecting the food. Always protecting. Greta was crying. She was eating green beans, and tears were dropping into the beans. "It's a trick," Greta whispered, her mouth full. "They fatten us up, Like livestock. The slaughter is coming. Ilse looked at her tray. The steam rose from the meatloaf. She cut a piece. She put it in her mouth. The flavor was overwhelming. Salt. Tomato. Fat. The richness of the beef made her saliva glands ache. It didn't taste like poison. It tasted like home. It tasted like the Sunday dinners before the war. But the fear didn't leave. The starvation anxiety kicked in. This is the last meal, her brain screamed. Tomorrow, they shut the kitchen. Tomorrow, the famine starts. Ilse looked left, looked right. The guards were busy smoking by the door. Fast as a snake, Ilse grabbed the roll of white bread from her tray. She shoved it down the front of her uniform tunic. It scratched her skin. It was warm. She felt a rush of relief. I have food for tomorrow. She looked around. Everywhere, women were doing the same. Sausages disappearing into sleeves, apples vanishing into pockets, butter wrapped in napkins. They were sitting at the greatest banquet of their lives, acting like thieves. For 3 weeks, Ilse lived a double life. By day, she was a prisoner of war, fed 3 hot meals a day. By night, she was a hamster. The hoard. Under her mattress, the collection grew. It started with that first roll, then a hard-boiled egg, then slices of cheese, then a packet of crackers. The smell began to change. The cheese began to sweat. The oil seeped into the napkin, then into the straw of the mattress. The egg went bad after 3 days. A sulphurous, rotten smell that she had to mask by sleeping with her nose pressed to the window. But she couldn't throw it away. The object, that napkin of food, was her anchor. It was her security blanket. Every night before she could sleep, she had to slide her hand under the mattress. She had to feel the crunch of the dried bread. She had to feel the squish of the cheese. It's there, she would tell herself. If the Americans stop feeding us tomorrow, I can survive for 3 more days. The library incident. One afternoon, Ilse was assigned to cleaning duty in the camp library. Yes, a library. Shelves of books, magazines, Life, Time, the Saturday Evening Post. She was sweeping the floor when she saw a trash can. Inside the bin was a half-eaten sandwich, white bread, ham, lettuce, mayonnaise. Investigating the bin, she saw it had just been thrown there. A guard had taken 2 bites and tossed it. Ilse froze. She stared at the sandwich. 2 bites. 80% of the sandwich remained. In Hamburg, that sandwich was worth a human life. People would kill for that sandwich. And here, it was garbage. She reached for it. Her instinct was to grab it, to save it, to rescue it. But then she looked up. Through the window, she saw a delivery truck backing up to the kitchen. Men were unloading crates. Crate after crate of milk, crate after crate of oranges, sacks of flour that released puff clouds of white dust when they hit the loading dock. The abundance was industrial. It was endless. It was a conveyor belt of calories that stretched from the fields of America directly to this camp. She looked back at the sandwich in the trash, and she felt sick. Not hungry. Sick. She was sick with the realization of how small she was, how small Germany was. Germany was fighting for crumbs. America was throwing away banquets. She didn't take the sandwich. But that night, she stuffed an extra orange into her mattress, just in case. Then the inspection happened. After Captain Miller threw the chocolate bar on her bed, something broke in Ilse. The tension that had held her spine straight for 5 years snapped. She sat on the edge of her bed for a long time. The barracks was quiet. The other women were gone to breakfast. Ilse was alone with her shame. She looked at her hoard. The treasure she had risked her life to protect. The bread was green with mold. The cheese was covered in lint. The orange had a soft, brown bruise on the side. It wasn't food. It was garbage. She had been sleeping on a pile of garbage, protecting it like dragon's gold. She stood up. She gathered the napkin. She bundled it up, feeling the crunch of the stale crusts. She walked to the coal stove in the center of the room. She opened the iron door. The fire was low, glowing red embers. She held the napkin over the fire. "Throw it," her mind said, but her hand rebelled. "No, you might need it." The starvation ghost in her brain was screaming. "Winter is coming. The trucks will stop." "Shut up," Ilse whispered to the ghost. "They have pancakes," she said out loud. "They have pancakes." She dropped the napkin. The cloth caught fire instantly. The dried bread blackened. The orange peel sizzled and popped, releasing a burst of citrus scent that mixed with the coal smoke. She watched it burn. She watched her fear turn into ash. The breakfast. Ilse walked to the mess hall. She was late. The line was moving. She grabbed a tray. She got the pancakes, 3 of them, golden, drowned in syrup. She got the sausage. She got the coffee. She sat down. She ate the first pancake. It was sweet, cloying, heavy. She ate the second pancake. She was full. There was 1 pancake left. This was the final test. In the past, she would have wrapped it. She would have hamstered it. She looked at the pancake. She looked at the exit. She stood up, walked to the scrapping can, and with a clear, deliberate motion, she scraped the perfectly good pancake into the swill bin. Slop. It was a sinful sound. But to Ilse, it was the sound of victory. She was trusting the enemy. She was trusting the abundance. She was leaving the plate full. Frankfurt, 2003. Ilse is 80 years old. She lives in a small apartment full of photos of her grandchildren. If you open her refrigerator, it looks normal. But if you look closely, you see the scars. There are 12 jars of jam. There are 5 packs of butter in the freezer. Ideally, she doesn't need them. The supermarket is down the street. But the habit is deep. The scar of 1943 never fully healed. She is sitting at her kitchen table. Her grandson, Lucas, is visiting. He leaves a crust of his sandwich on the plate. "I'm full, Oma," he says. Ilse looks at the crust. Her hand twitches. She wants to say, "Eat it. Don't waste it." She wants to wrap it in a napkin. But then she remembers the Texas heat. She remembers the peppermint gum. She remembers the ants. She smiles. She picks up the plate. "It's okay, Lucas," she says. She walks to the bin and scrapes the crust in. "We have plenty," she whispers. "We have plenty."